They call gold and silver God's money. So if you're thinking of buying precious metals or switching your 401k to gold without a penalty, head on over to thegoldshow.com now. The link is in the description below.
Hello and welcome. Today we've got Michelle Fielding, and we are going to be discussing the quantum system moving forward into the free world and Truth social media platform that's going to be launched in February 21 of 2022. Now, just before we begin, you can subscribe to our Telegram channels and to nicholasveniamin.com for my free email updates. And if you're watching this for the first time on YouTube, I will leave the link below in the description for the full interview, unless, of course, myself and Michelle can keep our words clean for the insane censorship that's happening right now on social media. Michelle, thank you for joining me. How are you and what have you been up to?
Hi, Nick. So I've been really busy recently receiving quite a lot of new information about the quantum system, the finance and the Starlink, and I've been getting a few visions about what's going on. And they've been explaining to me how the new setup is going to work. And I've been busy with clients as usual and updating my website. So just lots going on, really, lots going on.
Right. Well, why don't you give us a small presentation so far with what you know and what you feel with where we're going. And I just want to remind the viewers, actually, before we begin this, that there's a few things that you channeled in the past that I resonated with because they came to fruition. For an example, you said way before Biden got in, that you said that Biden would be inaugurated and Trump will step back, not down. And nobody understood that, but it came true. And then you also told me 7-8 months ago that Facebook at some point would be rebranding. And lo and behold, just a few weeks ago, they've rebranded.
Yeah.
So it's very, very interesting. I like what you're saying. And also with I don't want to get into the whole jab thing, but you've mentioned a few things that are in the jab where when we looked at the medical information, it seemed to be the case as well. However, I want to focus this interview more on the quantum system of where we're going. So let's begin with, why don't you give us a breakdown of what you feel and what you've channeled with the quantum system and what it looks like to you, and then we can go with some questions.
So the way that they normally give me information about the quantum system is it's normally connected to the timeline that's happening in the USA. So the USA, as we know, as we have lost a year basically, and it's gone very slow, and people are a little bit concerned about what's happening. And what they started to show me a couple of weeks ago now is a vision of the world with the military on the outside, all holding hands and then signing in to the Starlink. So when I started to ask them what that meant, what they've been explaining to me is that the reason that the timeline is on hold, if you like, with the USA is because of a few reasons, but mostly it's because they're trying to get the worldwide system signed up for the whole world. So they're they've got the military, it would seem, in each location around the world. And they are helping countries to sign into the new charter, which will then allow them to join Starlink. And the reason that each country needs to be able to do it that way is so that no one place will be in charge of the entire system. So each country, let's say, for instance, it was the UK, they will be in talks with the White Hats, the Alliance, the military, and they will be having to sign agreements that they're going to use the system in a way that allows for us to have freedom and sovereignty. And then if at any point in the future they didn't do that, so let's say, for instance, they started to try and impose restrictions on us, like a credit scoring system, then the rest of the Starlink would actually just shut the UK down, because it would be breaching the charter that they originally agreed to. So the delay, as you can imagine, this is a very big project. So all the countries had made a preliminary signing in of the thing called Nasara, which was the template of how the thing would look. But now we've actually got the Starlink lined up. They actually have to sign the contract to say that they will manage the Starlink in the correct way, in line with the points within Nasara. And the top point of Nasara always has to be that you are a country at peace, not only with other countries, but with your people. So once they've got them signed into that contract, then everything around the world can then go live. And that's when I think we're going to see the USA moving forward with where they got to before everything went relatively quiet. So when I've been asking what's going on with the Trump team, that's the biggest issue that I think they're dealing with right now. But in addition to that, they also have these things on a plan that they've been working through, and they've been waiting for the exact right time for everything to line up. And when they feel that it's the exact right time and everything's signed in, then that's when all systems are going to go. Does that make sense, Nick?
It does. Now, who do you think is involved in building this Starlink? And I've heard Elon Musk. What are your thoughts about that?
So what I'm thinking is that Elon Musk has obviously been involved in putting up the skeleton. He's got the main framework into place. But I think that other companies, and I mean, you actually sent me some information this week about this one company called Quantum Generation. I'm sure there are many. These types of companies will be designing parts of the Starlink system for I would imagine, each country. So in the UK, we've probably got numerous companies in the UK that are creating Starlink satellites for our piece of the pie. So it all links together as one big system. But as I was saying before, in order for it to create a system of peace, then the whole thing has to be contracted from each country in a way that, they obviously follow certain guidelines. But I think in terms of making the satellites, there will be numerous companies involved.
Right. Interesting. And how about, with this new system, actually, before we go further deeper into this system, let's talk about the Truth social media that Trump will be coming out with in February. Do you think that is going to be working with this quantum system technology, Starlink, that you're talking about? Because I would imagine that would be a very necessary in order for it to be secured, for it to not, have no censorship, and for the deep state not to get involved.
So I've been asking them about that, been asking about the Trump TV, and is it going to go onto the quantum system? And what they seem to be suggesting to me is that they're currently setting it all up, so it's not completed yet, and that their goal is to transition it onto the quantum system. Whether it's actually there yet, I don't know, but that is their goal. That's where they want it to go. And then what they want to do is, over time, they want to transition all the other social media and networks onto the quantum system as well. And I would imagine that the Trump TV will create an umbrella so that other networks and social media, particularly of the USA, can come under that Trump TV umbrella, which will then be on the quantum system. But of course, they will then obviously have to abide by the new policies and licensing, which will be that they won't be able, under the quantum system, to be able to do any kind of censorship.
Do you think that there's going to be a very high, powerful intelligence where it could read you telepathically and your intentions?
Well, my understanding from people that work on the Starlink system is that the system seems to have a very fast response to you. So when you're going to, say, interact with the keyboard, I've been told it's almost as if the keyboard knows exactly what you're going to say before you say it. So it does seem to be a very fast technology. It does seem to, at certain levels, be able to interpret where you're going with something. So yes, I think possibly my understanding is that it's an AI system. So it will be programmed. They've told me it's programmed with stops and checks and backstops, so that nobody can program it to do bad things. It can only be programmed to do good things. And if anything bad, it's told to do anything bad by any of the countries or any of the personnel, then the rest of the system knows and it shuts it down. So the repercussions would be that, let's imagine that we've got part of the pie in the UK, which I think is going to be called OneWeb. And let's imagine that Boris Johnson, if he was still in control at that point, started to do something which was detrimental to us, tried to impose restrictions of freedom or try to monitor us in a negative way. The system, with all these stops and checks and balances that are being programmed into it, would know. It would know from the whole system worldwide what Boris Johnson was trying to do, and it would then shut down the UK. It would just switch it out with the Starlink. So in the future, this is going to be catastrophic, because everything like banking, internet, medical resource, TV, lots of different things are going to be on that Starlink system, possibly even electricity and utilities. So if a country then doesn't abide by these protocols, it could be locked out of the entire system, and all of that would just go down. So it's in the, sorry, Nick.
No, that's okay, please.
So I'm just trying to explain it the best way I understand it. So my understanding is that if any leader tries to do anything detrimental to that Nasara Jasara template, which, don't forget, the main points are peaceful with other countries, but also peaceful with your own citizens and allowing their sovereignty. If that first number one on the template gets breached, then the rest of the world's system will shut it out.
Do you think that it would shut up? So let's say, for an example, Boris Johnson's in power. Let's take your scenario as an example.
Yeah.
And say that he tried to do something bad. Do you think that it would shut up the UK, like you said, or do you think that it would just shut him out of the system? Because that would mean that the others would be, the innocent people would be in danger. I mean, what do you think?
Yeah. Well, it depends. I suppose it depends what level of things he's trying to do, but I mean, that would be the risk. So no leader would want to take the risk of having everything that operates in your country completely closed down. So that's how you would police it, if policing is even the right word. So that was just an example. I don't know the actual details of how that might look, but I mean, it would be a pretty strong penalty if, say, you had a CCP situation beginning and they were trying to control the citizens. Because if they took out just one thing, like just say the banking, then the whole country goes down, because it won't be able to do any trade, or nobody will be able to get any money to buy anything. So even if they just took out one aspect of it in that country, if they threatened to take out one thing, just like the internet, for instance, like when we're hearing now about 10 days of darkness, we're kind of trying to imagine what that might mean. And if that means the internet going down, we're trying to imagine what that might look like. So I would imagine that would be the same if a country wasn't abiding by the treaty or the charter it signed into. It would be a way of everybody policing everybody else.
Do you think that when this Truth social media platform in February is launched, and let's say, for an example, it could be working with a new quantum system with a Starlink, do you think that there might be a transition where there's going to be a blackout that we may notice or may not notice? Because obviously the white hats are doing their best to minimize any worries for the public. So maybe we might experience a half an hour blackout, for an example, where there's been a transfer of power from the Wi-Fi system, the system that we know that was created by the cabal, which the banking system runs off, and all the tax systems and everything run off, and then transitioned into the new system. And do you think that that could be a possibility for the whole debt system to be wiped out?
Okay, so when I've been trying to ask about the 10 days of darkness, the only thing that they're not understanding that term, 10 days of darkness. So that was the first thing, they were quiet. But when I was trying to feel into that, what I think it might mean is, we had the 2 days already where we had a Facebook disruption and Twitter and everything went down. I think over 10 possible days, individual days, they may be testing certain systems, different systems. So it sounds like they've already done the social media. So maybe the next 8 days that are left might be 8 different systems to come. So that could be, I would imagine, something like they're testing, could they transfer, let's say, the electric? I don't know exactly what it might be. Let's say they're going to think about electricity next. They might test, when they put the switch on to Starlink, does it run the electric? And we could have a 24-hour period of disruption with, say, our utilities. I think it's going to be 10 days, but not necessarily like a blackout.
So you're saying
one long go.
So you're saying it will be maybe 10 days, but not in a row. It'll be like one day here, a few hours of it, next week, one day next month, But you're saying collectively.
I'm getting, when you're saying that now, they're shouting yes. So their intention, the white hat intention is that they would prefer to not create too much disruption. As they've always said to me, and I've always said it to you when we've been talking, anywhere where they can minimize any psychological impact to the public or trauma, then they will. So in my understanding of how they work and how it's been channeled to me on every other subject, they will try to minimize any disruption. So the 10 days might just be, 10 individual days or 10 individual systems where they're switching it from one system to the Starlink and they're testing it.
Very interesting. Now, I want to talk about quantum phones. I believe they're called cubic phones, if I'm not mistaken. And when we looked at the Quantum Generation website, the logo that you just showed in the beginning of this interview, which is the same logo and color that we've seen on Melania's dress.
Yes, I printed it for you, Nick. Look at this logo on her dress.
Oh, you're amazing.
And look at that.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And at the time, nobody knew what this was. No. This was, and now we get it.
So when you found that, Nick, that was an incredible find because, then we had just found this company. And when you print off, the colors are even the same.
I just want to say, I want to give credit to a gentleman. I'm really sorry for forgetting your name, but it was a gentleman on Twitter that sent it to me. So thank you. I can't take credit for that.
It's incredible when we all work together, how we, when we all work as a team, we all start to piece these things together.
Absolutely. And I'm very happy that we're doing this. We're getting the pieces together and it's all making sense.
Yeah.
So this is very interesting because on this website, it talks about quantum phones. It talks about how they've created this because of the censorship, and this is about freedom, and the banking will be decentralized, meaning that we will be the banks in control of our money, and there will be no banking system that will be able to manipulate or hack in. So it's very encrypted. It's a bit like the pyramid, but upside down, that kind of system. Let's talk about the phones and why they're special. And I know that you sent me a screenshot of somebody is associated with these phones, if you wouldn't mind.
Okay, so just before we go on to the phones, going back to the banking, what I've had channeled to me, even before we found this company, is that we will work direct, our banking will be direct with Starlink. So you and I will have our digital account, our own personal digital wallet. And if we want to get money, we will just speak directly to the quantum system. There will be no intermediary. There'll be no banks. So there'll be no middlemen. And I think you were asking me the other day about what it might look like. Will we have a credit card or something like that? And what they had channeled to me some months ago was that we might have something like a credit card with a quantum dot on it, which is encrypted just to us, so nobody can hack it because it's a quantum dot. Or we could have, say, it could be on our we now have, at the moment, obviously have Apple products, but who knows in the future whether this quantum watch, quantum mobile phone, it could have an encrypted system where we can pull down our funds that way. And they've also said to me that the currency will be, well, they called it holographic currency, which was quite incredible, but they said that it will be a digital currency backed by gold. Now, in terms of how the phones will work, I don't have a lot of understanding yet about the quantum phone, but I think that basically people won't be able to track you from it, because the way that the quantum and the blockchain work is that it's encrypted from end to end. And I'm not really sure how to explain that to people, because I'm obviously not an IT or programmer. But my understanding is whatever you do on your credit card or your phone or your watch or your computer is private to you. So even though the Starlink system is a linked up system worldwide, i.e. that's a centralized point, what we do as individuals is decentralized. So what you and I do personally on our phones and our computers, etc., is decentralized and protected, encrypted. So the only place where the censorship is going on, if you like, is that system that I explained before, where countries, in my understanding, would be able to monitor other countries to make sure that they're in accordance with that world peace plan.
Well, it makes so much sense, because if we are destroying and exposing and moving away from the matrix that the cabal have created, which is a system that we don't know any other way. We only know this system. And in order to end this globalism, we have to be open to other systems that we've never known before.
Yeah.
And it sounds, yeah, please.
Sorry.
No.
I was going to say that when I was looking through the paperwork for this quantum generation, and I'm sure there are other companies, but I was just wanted to read out what they said their points at what they can actually do on this quantum system.
Please.
They were saying that they could modernize a 217 trillion real estate industry. They could prevent $1.7 trillion in counterfeiting goods which are sold each year. They could create an electoral voting system, which is called Q-Vote. They could also develop something called QG Health technology, which will assist in reducing healthcare costs. They talked about a space-based communications platform with the Q phone, which will also have QG, which is quantum generation internet, and a QG space cloud for your data storage. They said that there would be a space-based censor-proof platform for all social media and web browsing, which will encourage autonomous freedom of speech and thought without censorship. They said that they would also be assisting in commerce and food supply, and through the change, and they would also be involved significantly in the change of banking, which they're calling the FinTech market. So I imagine that the Fin stands for financial, FinTech market. And they're just saying here, before they went on to talk a bit more, that this actual industry, the finance industry at the moment is all over this type of technology. It's like, this is the time they're saying to invest. This is a good investment now while it's at the early stages to invest in these types of technologies, because they're just kind of at the beginning, really. They're just taking off.
Wow. So which technologies, if you'd like to be more specific in the technologies that you're suggesting we could be invested in?
So they're saying that this whole quantum system, with all those things they just talked about, are at the beginning stages of being developed. So someone's having to actually build them. So it's like this quantum system that's up in the sky. It's like we have the template up there, which is operational. But in order for each aspect of it to be utilized, like say let's take one, say the Q phone, for instance, somebody has to build the Q phones to be able to work with that system. So let's say you wanted to invest in that technology right now. This is like a future technology that's going to be huge. So now I think what they're explaining is now would be the time to get involved in it as it's growing, as it's taking off.
Very interesting. And let's talk about the blockchain voting, because everything will be done on our phone and it will be decentralized to us.
Yeah.
So like the bank, our money, no control, just us in control. The voting system. Yeah.
Sorry. There's a whole lot of information in their document, but they do have something called the QKD, which is the quantum key distribution. And it's something to do with how they program the voting system so that it can't be hacked. That you can't have any fraudulent activity. Something to do with I actually watched a little video that they've put on YouTube, and I don't pretend to understand all of it, of course, but they were saying that the way that they program it with zeros and ones creates you can't hack it. So it's a very secure voting system. Now, whether we're going to vote from our phone, I don't know, but it would make sense that if it's decentralized and it's safe, that there should be no reason in the future why we couldn't vote from our phone. That would make perfect sense to me.
It does. Imagine if they already captured the last. I want to be very careful with our words, but because they're very sensitive on this topic. But imagine that they've used they've got all the real data of the previous one in 2020 on this system, and maybe they're keeping it as the cherry on top of the cake.
I think that's a possibility, because the people that I know personally that work on Starlink, when it was at the beta stage, it's now gone live, it's now active to everybody. But before September, it was at what they called the beta, the testing stage. But if it was obviously live then to a certain amount of people. So it would make sense to me that the USA could have used that system for the 2020 election, and that all results are already known. They're already known because of this system I've just been talking about with the quantum key.
Right.
So I think they would have been able to see immediately what was going on.
So in February, 21st of February, my words are not coming out today, of 2022, when Trump's social media platform, Truth Social, Follow the Truth, is launched. Do you think that will be that will be the beginning of us seeing something of the quantum generation and Starlink system?
I really think that's going to be a good starting point there. I'm not saying everything's going to happen immediately on that day, but I think this is possibly what the holdup has been. I think they've been waiting to get everything lined up around the world with the quantum system. They're getting this Trump network in place for his social, so that all the social networks and everything will be under it. And I think once we get the media in place, as we all know, once we start having a media that's telling the truth, then that is going to dramatically change the course of events going forward. The other big thing is that if you follow sort of astrology and things like that, then I've always been told that we're currently in the year of the ox, which is a very sort of strategic sign. It kind of gets the soil ready for the following harvest, the following year. But when we go into February 2022, we actually go into the year of the tiger. And in Chinese astrology, the Chinese tiger is the sign of the military and fast movement, like courage, getting things done, moving forward. Whereas the year of the ox is more about sort of standing back and strategically putting everything, all your ducks in a row. And I feel that's what the Trump team have been doing this year. They've been putting their ducks in a row. And then when I was doing my channeling recently, they were saying that the Trump team were waiting on two things, basically. One, for all the astrological alignments to line up perfectly. And two, for the collective consciousness to be at a level where it was balanced and able to accept what was coming forward. And once those two pieces line up, that's when you're going to start seeing more things going forward. And they were saying to me that in February 2022 is about this time when we're going to have the collective consciousness at the right level and the planetary situation lining up. So I think we've got a really good chance of seeing, some bigger things happening around that time.
Do you also think that there's a technology that's been used for many decades by the deep state that keeps our consciousness very low and unaware, where the white hats now are in control, where they're able to use it to raise consciousness? I know it's very...
I think the technology that the deep state uses is very simple. It's the BBC, it's the TV. But right. I think going forward, the new internet, and that thing 5...
Yes, don't say it.
The 5 with the thing.
Those towers.
Well, according to this company, we won't need that in the future because they will be providing that as well. And whether it will have the same type of frequency, they're saying no. It's going to have a different frequency. And when I was channeling for my most recent video, they were saying that in the future, the levels of EMF will be less harmful to people. So I feel like all these technologies that are coming, that the white hats will use, will be beneficial to people and help them to raise consciousness. Firstly, because it'll be giving them their freedom of speech and a better quality of life. Because my understanding from my most recent channelings are still that we're going to be in a better place financially when all this obviously starts moving forward again, hopefully next year. So they are still saying that people will have more money, that the taxation will go, that you'll be free to do what you want to do rather than being in the rat race, that the education system will look very different, that people's work and work balance, will be very different. In fact, people will just have the option to do something they want to do rather than doing something that they feel they have to do to pay for everything that's like the rent and the mortgage. Because my understanding is that we're going to get either our income raised substantially for the work that we do, or there's going to be some sort of income coming to us through this new system, which is going to make everybody, much better off than they are right now.
Well, if there was a group of people, I believe the white hats, who are, controlling the earth for the good, who love God, then I'm assuming, or I suspect, that there might be a combination of compensation and an increase in salaries.
Yes.
And also more time to ourselves to be with our loved ones. And also because we won't be chasing money in this new system, because we only know this system because of the matrix, thanks to the cabal. But if we were to exit this system completely and it was to be totally different, we would have that time to actually explore who we are as individuals and do what we're best at creating, where it's therapeutic for us, where we're made in the same image as God. And that's why we feel so therapeutic and peace when we're creating, and we'll be able to do great things, humanitarian things, and we won't be stressed and suppressed and just chasing money and just to, work to survive. What are your thoughts?
I think that's exactly how it's going to be. And you just reminded me that they also said that the humanitarian projects, you'll be able to apply directly. This is how they've explained it to me, that you'll be able to apply directly to the quantum financial system. And you'll be able to say, let's say you want to start up an animal sanctuary or something like that. In today's environment, you'd have to provide a business plan and perhaps some security on a loan. And it's a really long, difficult process that most people can't access. But in the new system, if your intention is to do something good, then the money will just be allocated to you for that purpose. So you can basically then live out your life doing something for humanity that you enjoy because you know the finance is going to be there to help you to do it. Which at the moment, people aren't able to do that because they're always concerned about, obviously, the financial aspects of their life. In the future, those financial aspects will look very different. They've told me that you'll be abundant from birth to death, and there won't be like this. Retirement age will be a thing of the past. People won't understand what retirement age means. I mean, you'll just come into the world and you'll just be abundant and you'll just live your life. It won't be about certain stages of your life and certain accomplishments and things to do with retirement age. You will just live your life and in a happy, peaceful way. And where you want to serve humanity, you'll be given the funds to help you to do that.
And also, let's talk about painless birth for the mother and child, because we know something that the cabal always they like to make us suffer left, right, and center. Do you want to explain what that would look like in the new system?
So they haven't explained exactly what that technology or that system might look like, but they have explained to me that the new world is going to be more focused on creating a happy family environment and a pain-free birth experience. And they've also explained to me that some time ago, and I was asked this today on a question that somebody sent me, they were asking about the teeth, actually. And they did explain to me some time ago that they were going to be able to do any dental work in a more pain-free way and be able to regrow teeth. So I'm not sure how near we are to that happening, but they have told me about that before. They do tell me about future technologies sometimes, although they don't necessarily tell me, what it's going to look like. They just explain what the outcome of it will be. So one of the things that they explained to me was that houses in the future will all be connected in some way, so that if, say, your neighbor collapsed, say they had a stroke or something and they lived alone, that the connected systems would alert the neighbors or the community in some way, and obviously the ambulance. So people could be, instead of having to go into care homes, they could have their freedom for longer because they could stay in their own homes for longer, because this technology would be able to read their blood pressure, if they're having a heart attack, if their blood sugars are going low or something like that. And it could alert the people before the person even probably realizes. And so in that respect, people could be independent for longer.
Well, it sounds really good. Let's see. But first, we're at the process of draining the swamp.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things happening, and a lot of there's just a lot of things happening right now, and we are. Once we've drained the swamp, we will see the social media platform. They're working on the Starlink, and then it all starts from there very gradually, and it could be over the course of 10, maybe 20 years until we see a lot, really. But we should start seeing something happen. What do you think, 22, 23?
Well, I think that, like we were saying, we've got the main technology up in the sky ready to go, but now we need to link it to something. So we need to build the cars and the phones and the connectivity between the homes. So I think in terms of technology, we're going to see probably 20 years of development ongoing. But something I just want to come back to when you're talking about draining the swamp. I heard, I think it was last week, that someone was saying that one of the holdups was that the Trump team didn't have money. So I just wanted to ask about that, because that didn't feel right to me. So I did actually say to them, does the Trump team / alliance need more money to move forward? Is that what the delay is? And they said that no, money is not a factor in how the strategic plan is implemented. They said it's more about getting the timing right. And they said that all moving parts are they're waiting for all the moving parts to be at an optimal place before they execute the biggest political move ever seen worldwide. And that's what they said to me.
Wow.
So this is why it's so important that they get everything right, because they called it the biggest political move ever seen worldwide.
Wow, it sounds amazing. Well, I'm excited.
They actually put an exclamation mark at the end. So that, that's pretty incredible. That's quite exciting to hear. What do you think about that, Nick?
It makes my hair stand up.
I know, it does. It does. Yes. I did ask them, just got a few little notes here, but I did say to them, how will these quantum credit cards work? I think we probably covered it already, but their actual answer to me was that the quantum credit cards will be embedded with encrypted nanocrystals, which will protect the user from fraud or hacking, and that it will communicate directly with the Starlink and the quantum system.
Right. It's a bit like what you said, it's like having the internet all built and ready, but we've got no computers developed to connect it together with. I see what you mean.
And it's like having a really brilliant engine of a car designed, but you haven't got the pieces of the car added onto it yet. So you know how the internal part is going to run. You've got a fantastic engine, but it's like we have to now build it out. And that's what the world is currently needing to do. We're needing to build out this blockchain technology into all aspects of our lives.
Absolutely. Wow. Well, Michelle Fielding, it's been an absolute honor to have you. Thank you very much. Is there anything else that you'd like to say to the viewers before we finish?
Well, I did ask them, where will these chips be placed in the future to connect with these technologies? Because some people have been worried about, are we all going to need to have something in our arm? And they said that these quantum dots and crystals, they can be adapted for many environments, even under the water. They could even be put under the sea. They said they are extremely versatile due to their indestructible design. And again, they mentioned they can't be hacked. They said they will allow people's personal data to remain encrypted and private, and people will be in control over what information is public. So they didn't say that they would need to go inside your body. Mm-hmm. They can literally be put anywhere, but once they are designed for you as an individual, then that's your information, your crystal, your quantum dot, whatever you want to call it, and no one else can access it unless you give permission. So just to recap, the main system is centralized in the sense that everybody around the world can watch everybody else, but the end user, which is you and me, Nick, and everybody else, it's decentralized. So we have total control over what information they can see or share.
Well, that's very important, because many of us do not want to have the choice of where we put things, especially not in our bodies. And if it can be on a device like a phone, like we have today, but it's encrypted and it's all for the good reasons, not like the way we know today with the cabal, it would be fantastic.
Yes, exactly.
Well, thank you very much, Michelle. And we'll catch up very soon and speak soon. God bless. Thank you.
It's been lovely to see you.
You too.